I mean,
Yeah, standard pattern of human warfare.
I know, but for people who take a book as the guide to morality, it's filled with terrible morality.
Yeah.
But again, not to keep beating a dead horse about why religion is so horrible in any form, but if you read the teachings of the Mormon Church until recently, the things they say about black people are just horrendous. The worst kind of racist thing. And they justify it by talking about that
Ham.
Well, no, that's interesting. They get it. The black people in religion get it from two sources. The Mormons talk about Cain.
Yeah.
That black people are a descendant of Cain, and because Cain is a murderer and he did a dark deed, I mean, they're very open about, like, that's why they have dark skin, to remind us of the darkness in their past.
In a charged and deeply engaging exchange, Bill Maher and Jordan Peterson confront one of the most provocative aspects of religion, its inherent claim to supremacy. With sharp wit and unwavering conviction, they dissect how religions assert exclusive truths about morality, the afterlife, and divine authority, often clashing with the pluralism of modern society. The conversation crescendos with pointed critiques of Islam and Judaism, focusing on sacred texts that seem to endorse exclusion and violence in the name of divine will. As Maher's relentless skepticism collides with Peterson's philosophical depth, the dialogue transforms into a dramatic exploration of faith, power, and the human need for certainty. Together, they peel back the layers of religious doctrine, leaving no sacred idea unchallenged, and forcing the audience to grapple with profound questions about belief, morality, and the cost of dogma. Let's watch the video.
I mean, it's just ugly. Yes, the other thing that the Southerners in this country used was Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham
was the contemptuous son.
Also the one who wanted to f his dad. I guess, or maybe both, I don't know. But Ham, think the black line runs from Ham.
Right.
But both of them, again, use religion to be justifying what we would today call one of the worst things, racism.
Okay, well, don't look. Right.
That.
Well, why? Okay.
You get me?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing incoherent about that argument. Although I think it still leaves you in an awkward position, because the postmodernist would say, take a look at your stance and say, well, you defend Western civilization, and there's plenty of turds floating in that pool. Well, but
okay.
Right.
All right, you win that one.
Well, it's rough, because
there are plenty of turds floating in that pool.
At the past,
that's true.
Right? And
but but here's the thing: we can fish our turds out. Like, we had slavery, but we fished that turd out of the pool. You can't do that. The Bible is the Bible.
Yeah,
it's there, and it was written by God.
It was the Protestant evangelists that did that.
Did what?
Took that particular bit of pollution out of the pool, right? That was Wilberforce in the UK, and he was completely motivated by religious motivations.
Who were for emancipation?
He was the one who convinced the UK to put their navy against slavery.
As the discussion intensifies, Bill Maher and Jordan Peterson delve into the darker recesses of religious history, exposing the controversial doctrines that have perpetuated some of humanity's most troubling injustices. From Mormon teachings that trace black ancestry to the curse of Cain to Southern biblical interpretations casting Ham as the progenitor of racial hierarchies, the dialogue unveils the ways religious narratives have been weaponized to justify racism and slavery. With piercing analysis, they confront the unsettling truth. These doctrines, often cloaked in divine authority, have not only shaped but also stained the moral fabric of societies. It is a confrontation with the past that forces listeners to question how much of today's inequities are echoes of these ancient, yet deeply flawed interpretations of faith.
We did something about it. That's the big argument against religion versus science. It's self-correcting. We can be self-correcting. Religion, to a lot of people, seems too rigid. I mean, its virtue is that it's set in stone. This is what we believe. That's what they're counting on, is that people want that sort of certainty about something.
Okay, so
that it's not going to change. That's what the Pope is always selling.
So one of the criticisms that Christ levies against the Pharisees in particular is exactly that criticism. he says to them, this is one of the things that sets himself up for crucifixion, because it's a very vicious insult. He tells the Pharisees that they worship their own doctrines as if they're religious truths, and that they would have killed the prophets. Had they been around in the time of the prophets that they purport to worship, they would have killed them. Said that they walk across the graves of their own prophets. Yeah. They haunt the graves of their own prophets. That's a good way of thinking about it. So he accuses them of a very deep cynicism. And he's trying to make the same point you're making, which is that you're not supposed to worship the static doctrines of men as if they're religious doctrines, and that there's something in the transformation process that isn't encapsulated in the letter of the law. So what would you say? You don't privilege the letter of the law over the spirit of the law. And I think part of what the genuine religious enterprise is the attempt to identify what that spirit is, that dynamic spirit. And I think that can be done. I think, and it does, it has an affinity, for example, with this idea that it's incumbent on you to voluntarily confront the tragedy and malevolence of life. And that if you do that, it will transform you. And we know that clinically. Like, all the different schools of psychotherapy converged on a few realizations. One of them was that it was useful to get people to get their story straight, to recount their story.
Right.
Another was that if you expose people to the things that they're afraid of and that they're avoiding, that they get stronger. That works. That's how you help people overcome anxiety, for example, social anxiety. It's also the fundamental mechanism of learning, is to put yourself on the edge of disaster and dance there, and that expands you.
By focusing on Jesus' critique of the Pharisees, they expose a timeless conflict, the danger of elevating doctrine above the transformative essence of faith. Jesus' rebuke serves as a critique of institutionalized religion that prioritizes dogma over the dynamic, personal evolution that faith seeks to inspire. This critique is not merely historical, but resonates with modern struggles to reconcile tradition with the need for spiritual growth and relevance. Building on this foundation, the conversation transitions into a broader exploration of personal transformation through therapeutic and mythological frameworks. Exposure therapy, a process of facing fears to foster resilience, is likened to the archetypal hero's journey. In this parallel, the individual's confrontation with their deepest fears becomes a transformative act, echoing the narrative structure of ancient myths, such as the dragon treasure quest. These myths symbolize the universal struggle to face adversity, overcome inner demons, and emerge stronger.
I mean, religion, I could take any number of reasons why I think it's better to junk the whole thing, but start with religions are supremacist. Just by their nature. If you're telling people what happens when you die, which nobody knows, and you're telling who the great master of the universe is, you kind of have to be in a place where you can't abide other thoughts on the subject. And certainly all religions are like that. Islam is super supremacist in that way. And a lot of the people today who are speaking for it will tell you right to your face, why am I supporting this? Because Islam is the best. Of course, obviously, that's why we justify these things. And certainly the Bible, same thing. I mean, God is very supremacist for the Jews. I find it very amusing that the thing that they are accusing the Jews of today of doing, colonizing, ethnic cleansing, which are neither true, are true in the Bible. That's exactly what God tells the Jews to do.
Central to their discussion is the argument that religions, by their very nature, assert an exclusive claim to truth, often leaving little room for alternative perspectives. This inherent tendency towards supremacy, they argue, elevates religious doctrines to positions of unassailable authority over morality, the afterlife, and divine will, creating both rigidity and conflict. Drawing on examples from Islam and Judaism, they explore controversial directives found in sacred texts. From assertions of being the best religion to biblical commands that appear to justify violence and exclusion, Maher and Peterson grapple with the moral and ethical quandaries these narratives present. Their conversation questions whether such supremacy is an intrinsic flaw in religion or an essential pillar of faith, inviting listeners to consider its broader implications for society and human behavior. Thank you for joining us in this thought-provoking exploration of faith, transformation, and the human experience. If you enjoyed this content and want to dive deeper into these discussions, Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more engaging conversations and analyses to you. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.